Um, our last presentation of the afternoon is going to focus on creative approaches for irrigation consultations, checkups, and inspections. This is really that one-on-one help that folks are getting to advance outdoor water efficiency. I'm going to introduce all three of our speakers. This is going to be a lightning round. They're going to have very short presentations, and we'll have Q&A. Blake Alldredge is going to go first. He's a water education coordinator at the Upper Trinity Regional Water District. He coordinates the district's water conservation and watershed protection planning and outreach programs and assists customer cities and utilities in their efforts. Joyce Warren presented yesterday. We're familiar with her. She's a program and communications administrator for the City of Frisco Public Works and Engineering Services Department. They have a really cool program that they're doing. And David Turnage is the conservation program specialist at Austin Water. He's been there since 2008, and he used to own his own landscape and irrigation company for 22 years before joining Austin. So he kind of knows it from both sides. He's out in the field doing water audits, several days a week now, even during COVID, and talking to customers and helping them with their irrigation system. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Blake, then Joyce, then David, and then we'll have question and answer and wrap it up after that.
All right, well, good morning. Like you said, my name is Blake Alldredge with the Upper Trinity Regional Water District. Just quickly wanted to, I think you said there was someone from Houston, but just thinking of all those in Southeast Texas and Louisiana that are dealing with another hurricane, just praying for God's hand of protection over all y'all. So go ahead and go to the next slide, please. All right, so Upper Trinity is, we're based in Louisville, just north of Dallas. We're a wholesale water provider that was created in 1989, serving communities in Denton and Collin counties. Next. This is a map showing where the communities are that we serve. And so, just like everyone else, all these communities just about are growing rapidly. And so we have to be more creative and more efficient with our water. Next. So just like we've talked about, everyone knows education and outreach are vital for any conservation program. We create our own resources. We connect to what others have done, especially the AgriLife Water University is an invaluable resource for us in this area. And then we have some programs like the watermyyard.org program. It's a website, provides weekly lawn watering recommendations based on local weather data. Next. And so, like I said, this provides weekly lawn watering recommendations. And looking back over 2019, the service, which is managed by Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, only recommended watering for 18 weeks during the entire year. So the savings potential from just using that is really high, and it helps folks understand and know exactly how long to run their sprinklers. Next. But knowing how long to run your sprinklers is not good enough if, like the photo on the left, you have a major blowout of a sprinkler head, or you see on the photo on the right, you have soils that may be saturated, or you water for too long, and a lot of that runs off the surface because it can't absorb to the soil. Next. So we've just seen that as especially a lot of people that maybe first-time homeowners or new to Texas don't quite understand how to operate a sprinkler system to maximize efficiency, what to look for with sprinkler system. We started looking around for other programs. We know the city, about 2016 or so, we knew the city of Allen had a real successful irrigation checkup program for residents. And so we talked with them, and they were gracious enough to give us their licensed irrigator they contract with, which he's right there in that photo in the white shirt. So what he does in these checkups, we started our program in 2017, where he'll go to people's homes and check their sprinkler system. He'll look for broken heads, spraying the sidewalk, different inefficiencies like that, and wasteful things, misting. But also he'll go through their controller settings and see, just how long their run times are, how often they're watering, things like that. Next. So this is a map we try to create every year, kind of showing the distribution of our checkups among all of our customers. We try to do the best we can. We have, we're only able to do 300 to 400 checkups a year. So we try to distribute those among our customers as best as we can. But sometimes you can see in this year, top three were Flower Mound, Salina, and Corinth. Really took most of the checkups, which is fine. Go ahead, go to the next slide, please. So in this 2019 year where we did about, I think it was 396 or so, we found that 52% of those that got a checkup overwater. And so, and among those, that 52% that overwater, if they adjusted their controller settings to what the irrigator recommended, they could save on average 3,000 gallons of water per week. Across all the checkups, we saw an average of 12 repairs or replacements that could be done at each home. And then I'm always fascinated to see, what the top is for number of sprinkler heads, but this one was at 13 broken heads. Next. Just about everyone did not know about the seasonal adjustment feature, and only 46% had working rain-free sensors. Next. One great feature of our program is we control it to where we can ask questions when they sign up before about what their knowledge is of their sprinkler system, and then also, after they receive their checkup. So in this set of folks, you can see before the checkup, most folks did not know very much about their sprinkler system. Next. And then after the checkup, we see that most consider themselves extremely or very knowledgeable about their sprinkler systems. And so we see that the educational component of this program is probably the best. If they make those adjustments or repairs to their sprinkler system, that'll last maybe a couple years or so. But the educational knowledge hopefully will last us much longer into the future. And I believe that is my last slide. So thank you for listening, and I'll pass it over to Joyce.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? So today I'll be sharing some creative approaches that the City of Frisco has implemented to improve water use efficiency and reduce water waste. As one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, the City of Frisco has needed to balance a population influx with a demographic of historically high outdoor water usage. More than 60% of water consumption during the summer months is used for outdoor irrigation. Taking an educational and evidence-based approach, Frisco uses data obtained from its Campbell Scientific Weather Station as the platform for its free sprinkler system checkup program. The goal is to create a program that will encourage residents to make responsible choices about their water use habits voluntarily rather than through mandatory restrictions. We have a dynamic irrigation team that is dedicated to education and helping residents understand their irrigation systems. Next slide, please. The objective of Frisco's free sprinkler system checkup program is to educate and empower water customers to understand their irrigation system, to reduce outdoor water use, and to save money on water bills. The program was launched with one full-time licensed irrigator on staff But within a few years, the need for more staff was evident, and it grew into a 6-person team. Residents request appointments using the My Frisco app, emailing WaterWise, or calling our Public Works Department. By tying this service request to the app, we experienced a surge of requests, and we were able to increase the reach of the program from 3,756 appointments in 2017 to 5,749 in 2018. During a checkup, the irrigator will first check the current settings on the controller. He or she will walk each zone with a homeowner and flag inefficiencies such as clogged nozzles, misaligned or broken sprinkler heads, and leaks in drip irrigation. One interesting note though, sprinkler heads with the wrong nozzles are a common source of water waste that's found during the checkups. With the use of computer tablets, the irrigators keep track of data related to their appointments while they are in the field. After walking the zones, the irrigator will set the controller using the cycle and soak method of watering and set it to comply with Frisco's 1 day per week watering schedule. And before leaving, the irrigator emails the results of the checkup, the new controller settings, and a pre and post checkup water savings report to the homeowner. Homeowners are often unaware that they're even wasting water until a checkup is completed. In Frisco, the average number of gallons used prior to a checkup is well over 4,000 gallons of water. We've been very effective in getting residents to schedule their annual checkup. However, we have not been as effective as we want in getting residents to implement our recommendations for system repairs. With the continuous growth and the development in Frisco, we turned our focus to new home irrigation checkups. Next slide, please. We basically took the framework for the free sprinkler system checkup program and we applied it to new home irrigation checkups. The city of Frisco allows for a 30-day watering exemption for new construction in order to establish new lawn and landscape. After the 30-day exemption expires, the responsibility often falls on the new homeowner rather than the builder to change the settings on the controller. Well, we know that rarely happens. With more than 2,000 residential building permits processed annually in Frisco, we're barely scratching the surface by performing 200 to roughly 250 new home checkups per year. Whereas most of the checkup requests from our legacy program come through the My Frisco app, the irrigation team is tasked with proactively scheduling these appointments. The certificate of occupancy or CO reports are run by completion date using the city's Track It software system. Scheduling appointments has been challenging. New homeowners have many more things to think about than changing the settings on their irrigation system. I think it's important also to mention that with COVID, our irrigation team has continued to perform the checkups. The irrigators are wearing masks during the checkups and they're maintaining a 6-foot social distance. And also to limit the amount of social interaction with the homeowners, they're performing the checkups while the homeowners remain indoors rather than having the homeowners walk the system with them throughout the checkup. Next slide, please. This chart shows a comparison of pre and post checkup water usage. This particular year, we completed 214 new home irrigation checkups. Each day, the irrigation systems continue to run in swamp mode. There's an enormous amount of water waste going on in Frisco. The new home irrigation checkup program is a gold mine for water savings. The successful results have proven to be effective use of staff and city resources. We have since expanded the program to commercial irrigation checkups and large-scale properties like HOAs. Because we're so busy with the regular free sprinkler system checkup programs during the spring and during the summer, we try to offset these large-scale property checkups to the fall and to the winter when the other checkup requests slow down. Next slide, please. As a result, water usage has dramatically decreased in Frisco. The per capita water use in the year 2000 was 299. In 2009, when we installed the weather station and implemented weekly watering recommendations, the GPCD continued to drop. It seems our GPCD is beginning to level off. However, it is important to note that our population has continued to grow. In the past 20 years, it has grown from 33,000 to 202,000 people. Next slide, please. In keeping with the 2020 vision for a 2040 focus, we will continue to strive for the efficient and effective use of our water resources in order to maintain a proper water usage balance in Frisco. If you're interested about hearing more about our water conservation programs, visit friscotexas.gov/water or email us. We'd love to hear from you, waterwise@friscotexas.gov. And thank you for allowing me to share this information with you today.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to join your training program today. I am going to be going over the City of Austin Water's outdoor irrigation checkup or evaluation program that we have. I am the main point of contact. My name is David Turnage, and I have been a licensed irrigator since 1996. Joining Austin Water in 2008, and I spend a good deal of my time, about 50% of my time, out in the field working with customers that come to our program, primarily from our billing and customer service folks. So I deal with a lot of people that have extremely high water bills. The qualifying aspect of our program is pretty high. I see people that are using 25,000 gallons typically or more per month. So can we get the next slide, please? Hello? So when I'm out in the field, I am going to meet with the customers and find just through discovery what their problems might be, what challenges they're having, and try to identify the source of the high consumption. Usually the consumption is unexpected, and their first clue to that is the high bill that they get. So the process in the field is to log the controller settings, calculate the flow at the meter. So we audit the meter just with a stopwatch to capture the gallons per minute in flow. And then we do the math problems and come up with the basic irrigation budget for the program that they're running. This reveals typically where their problems are, but the type of problems we're finding are excessive run times, scheduling frequency. The customers typically don't have a good knowledge or sense of programming skills, and they accidentally install multiple programs, multiple start times, and with not any concept of how long a station should be run. So we go through an educational process to get them more confident in their programming skills. A lot of our program is centered around the programming at the controller. That's where we're going to correct most of the wastefulness that we see. And with such high consumption, they're usually pretty amazed to see what our recommendations or recommended budgets might bring them down to. Next slide. This is just a snapshot of our audit sheet. Represents the typical thing that I see on a daily basis during the irrigation season. We start to see these calls come in usually mid-June, July, August. By the time we typically get to September and October, people have now gone for several months experiencing their high water bills, and they may not have even been aware that the expenses that were being charged to them through auto bill. Eventually they get a clue of that somehow, and I will go and try to get them back on the level playing field. This particular representation shows a customer that was using, he had 9 stations, a very basic irrigation system, all spray heads, all turf stations, but he had a scheduling conflict at the controller. He thought that his controller was running every other day, or that he was only running the controller manually. Turns out that he had a setting in there for it to run every other day. So he was irrigating 15 times a month. His irrigation budget when I got there was 45,000, in excess of 45,000 gallons. When I went through the controller and made just basic changes to the run times based on the type of landscape, sun exposure, plant material, heat island effects, and just slightly adjusting his run times, but then just putting in the 1 day a week that we allow for automatic irrigation to occur in Austin. You only have a single day based on your address. So you can irrigate either Wednesdays or Thursdays in the residential market. Got his irrigation budget down to 9,000 gallons. So we were successful helping him with that adjustment. I do change the controllers with the customer's permission. When I'm with him at the controller, that's a good opportunity to go through all the features of the controller, identifying hidden features that they don't even know or are aware of on the controller. Blake, I think, mentioned the seasonal adjustment tool. Virtually nobody understands how that functionality can help them manage their irrigation budget. And when you start applying seasonal adjustments to your irrigation program or scheduling, you will find that your irrigation season, actually the high demand period, is very much shorter than what most people think it is. Next slide, please. Pros and cons of doing the irrigation evaluations in the field. It's a great opportunity to educate the customers, all the features on the controller, give them a good solid base for confidence in their scheduling strategies. Need to change some behaviors, making sure that they understand that turf typically doesn't need to be watered very frequently. Just a deep root watering should satisfy their sustain their landscapes through their next opportunity to water. Long term, if we can get a customer to manage that irrigation budget seasonally, he will save a lot of water and of course money. Customers always come to me because of the money. Very rarely do people realize how much water they're using. They will eventually figure that out, but it's the money, it's the billing that brings customers to me to help them. We are able to give them a snapshot evaluation of their irrigation system, and we identify those deficiencies to help them improve the efficiency and what their needs in the landscape are. Next slide. Customers are very suspecting of their billing, the billing practices and of course the meters. So educating them on the meter and its reliability is important. We battle media next door complaining about water bills in a chat room, and so customers are very leery of that process. Customers are sometimes reluctant to change their behaviors, and then of course through the snapshot evaluations that we're doing, we do make recommendations for improvements. The repair costs sometimes are prohibitive. We do see evidence that not a whole lot of people will actually follow through and make those improvements to their irrigation systems. Next slide. We have a pretty robust rebate program. We offer rebates for rain sensors. Pressure regulation is highly focused on. Drip conversions, We have a new category where we have offered conversions from 4-inch heads to 6-inch heads, which makes an irrigation system much more efficient, clearing obstructions and easier to identify deficiencies. And then capping a station, we have a category for that. Next slide. I do a lot of training, so I enjoy getting a classroom of people together at our offices on Saturdays, and I have 2 classes that we offer training series on. We haven't been able to do them this year because of COVID, but I offer an Irrigation 101 controller training class to identify features and give the customers good scheduling tips and strategies. And then I have an irrigation system maintenance for efficiency class where we go through conducting a walkthrough inspection, identifying the deficiencies, making adjustments, cleaning and adjusting nozzles, changing nozzles, basic maintenance tips and strategies and solutions to overcome deficiencies. Next slide. I think we're about it. Our conservation program in Austin has requirements to irrigate only 1 day a week. Our residential customers can irrigate Thursdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays, and commercial customers operate their irrigation systems on Tuesdays and Fridays. Hose draggers are on the weekend. And that's everything that I have to present today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Blake, Joyce, and David. We have a couple of minutes before Jennifer wraps us up for day 3 of the symposium. The first question is from Jennifer Nations, and I'll pose it to all 3 panelists. What was the name of the program used to submit the irrigation checkup reports to customers? I know that you all may use different ones. In Dallas, we use SAP generates it for us, but what do you all specifically use to provide the final checkup report to the customer?
Holly?
Yes, sir.
This is David. Our program has a field audit report, and so we produce all of that in the field and give it to the customer at the time of the audit, and go through a consultation with them on all of the discovery that we found and corrections that can be made, and then follow up might include more detailed tips and strategies on programming and maintenance, as well as information on rebate programs. And that would be just through email or links to our website.
Okay, thank you so much, David.
For
Joyce, do you know what program? Sorry, go ahead, Blake.
I was just gonna say, for Upper Trinity's program, the licensed irrigator actually will email a PDF of the report to the homeowner and to us, and so he has to go back and do some calculations. That's how we get the water savings number. He does a meter read beginning and end and figures out how much water they could save by adjusting controller settings. And so he has to go back to the office and do that, and then he can send that information to them directly.
Thank you,
And
Blake.
in Frisco, we used to use the Conserve Track application for that, but the city has been taking a movement to try to unify systems. So right now, everything is tied into our CityWorks system. From My Frisco app, those go through CityWorks, scheduling through CityWorks. They use the tablets in the field and log all the information. So we're not handing the resident any paper. There's no exchange. We're emailing that while you're standing there, setting the controller, and you've got the customer face to face. We're emailing that information to them. They get it on their phone, and they can discuss anything at that time. And we run all of our reports as well from CityWorks.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you to all of you. The second question comes from Sarah Robinson, and this is directed towards David. David, how often do you encounter indoor leaks instead of landscape issues? Do you investigate that? And if not, how do you differentiate between the two before going to investigate?
So when we go to somebody's house and we're going because of a high bill concern, typically, we are going to look for any leaks that might be occurring on the property. So the first step is getting to the water meter and taking the meter read and seeing what the flow or the month-to-date consumption is to identify whether the high consumption is still going on or not. And without any demand for water, the meter's going to identify if there is a leak somewhere. So if the leak detector is indicating flow, then go through a process to isolate different components. So first step for me, because I'm primarily focused on the irrigation system, would be to isolate the irrigation system from this point of connection. So just cutting the double check off, turning it off. If that leak stops, then we know that the irrigation system is the problem. If the leak continues, then it becomes a household issue. And you know, that can be a toilet. We can measure very small flows at a toilet and give a general calculation for what kind of loss is occurring there. Could be a swimming pool autofill valve, some other appliance, you know, on the house that could be contributing to the high bill. Sometimes it's all things considered. Sometimes there's toilet leaks, high irrigation budgets, swimming pool problems with autofill valves, and so we do our best to identify the source of the water and where the loss is occurring. I had an account this week that was flowing 2 gallons of water a minute. That's over 80,000 gallons a month. And the irrigation system was in a state of disrepair and they weren't even running it. It turns out these folks have a foundation leak. So we are able to find a lot of different problems.
Thank you, David. And finally, the last question of the day comes from Dustin Compton, the Conservation Manager from Trinity Regional Water District. It is again directed to David. David, for one-day watering schedule, does that mean the customer is allowed to use an automatic irrigation system one day and a hose end the other day? What does that specifically mean?
That is correct. For automatic irrigation systems, residential market, odd addresses with water on Wednesday, even on Thursday. You do have the second day to water, which occurs on Saturday or Sunday, correspondingly to your address, where you can actually use hoses. But not the automatic irrigation system. So we support people that might be having challenges in their yard or areas where they might need this supplement. Of course, handheld watering is allowed any day and any time. And then we do have exemptions for drip irrigation. Drip can run any day, any time.
Thank you so much, David. And thank you to all of the panelists and all of the panelists for today and for days 1 and 2 as well. That concludes